Lepore, you mentioned the Stanley Cup odds for next season.
Here we go.
Let's go over these odds real quick, okay? They're already posted. I mean, depending on what sports book you use, I'm sure you can find them right now. But right now, the Colorado Avalanche are the betting favorite to repeat as Stanley Cup champions at 4-1.
4-1. Oh my God.
They are 4-1 to win the 2023 Stanley Cup.
That's hilarious.
I think that's a stay away. I mean, as good as Colorado is, really 4-1.
4-1. That's so like what's Makar to win the Conn Smythe, like 5-1 or 6-1 or something, like a year away. No, it's
my God.
That's the effect of like they just won. So everyone has a boner for Colorado right now, and bets are gonna come in at 4-1, and Vegas is laughing at people taking 4-1.
Very good call. But Lepore, guess who is number 2 on the list behind the Colorado Avalanche? The second favorite to win the Stanley Cup is your Toronto Maple Leafs at 7-1. This team hasn't won a playoff series in 18 years, and they are 7-1 to win the 2023 Stanley Cup.
You know, Bruno, I think that's absolute horseshit because I think the Leafs should be a slam dunk favorite at number 1. But number 2, it's funny because when you hear number 2, you're like, wow, that's too high. Like, that's crazy for them to be the number 2 ranked team as far as that list goes. But at the same time, 7-1. Like, I don't think 7-1 is crazy. Like, we talked about how at 4-1 Colorado. I mean, what's a worse someone? Like, at what point would we say Toronto is 100% lay the bet? Like, if someone gave like 10-1 or 12-1 on a 115 point team, regardless of who they are, I'd be like 10 times your money, 12 times your money. Yeah, let's lay the bet. So I think 7-1 is quite reasonable. Like, for comparative reasons, like what's the rest of the list?
Yeah, so I'll go down the list real quick. And just to say, the Leafs, they've essentially been in this range at the start of the last like 3 seasons between like 7 and 11-1, depending on the book you're looking at. They've been a top, 3 or 4 favorite to win the cup now, like 3 years in a row.
If I remember correctly, the summer they signed Tavares, at least for a brief time, they jumped to they were the best.
Yeah, they were the betting favorite to win the cup the summer they signed JT. So to go down the list, then you have Florida at 8-1, the Lightning at 10-1.
Somehow Florida is ahead of Tampa, but okay.
Yeah, that's another.
And we're ahead of Tampa for that matter.
It's just insane.
But anyways.
It's insane, but I mean, it's understandable when you think about it from the perspective that you were talking about. But it's still kind of crazy to see the Leafs and Florida ahead of Tampa.
To that point, you have teams 2, 3, and 4 in the same division. Why not?
Yeah,
why not?
And then you go down the list here, Lepore. Some juicier odds as you go down. So then you have Vegas at 14-1.
That's a good bet.
So the books are still very high on Vegas, a healthy Jack Eichel, just a healthy team in general. Like that's still a really good team. Then you have Calgary at 16-1. Carolina also at 16-1. The Rangers at 18-1. And Lepore, still a team that is not getting any respect despite making it to the conference finals. And I shouldn't say they're not getting any respect, but it's the Edmonton Oilers at 20-1.
Yeah.
So once again,
how many teams in the West are ahead of them? You said Vegas, Calgary, obviously Colorado. So no, they're not getting much respect at all.
Yeah. So they, in total across the NHL, they are 6, 7, 8. They are 9th.
Okay.
They are 9th in the betting markets right now. Well, at least in the book that I'm looking at, they're ranked 9th at 20-1 to win the Stanley Cup. So you would think Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, who, by the way, ended up leading the playoffs in scoring. Okay, and they only played 3 rounds. McDavid finished number 1, Draisaitl number 2, Makar number 3. They are 20-1 to win the Stanley Cup next season. Some people might say that's actually a good bet because depending on what they're able to do in the offseason, who knows? That could be a good bet right now at 20-1. But it's always interesting to look at these betting lines the morning after the Stanley Cup is handed out.
Yeah, Calgary's an interesting one because as the months go by, we find out about if Tkachuk gets extended, what happens with Johnny Gaudreau. So that could go either way. You could get really good value or really bad value depending on what happens there. And I guess that's the case with a lot of these teams. You don't know what players are going to end up where. So I mean, now is the time. If you see one where you think the odds are pretty good, lay the bet. I think Vegas at 14-1 is nice. Like
That's
in
a
that
solid bet. I'm a big Jack Eichel fan. I believe in that team. A lot of people were shitting on Eichel and Vegas for missing the playoffs, but don't count that team out.
No.
That's still a very good hockey team. Now they bring in Bruce Cassidy, who did an excellent job with the Boston Bruins over the last few seasons. So that team's going to be, I think they're going to be right back in the playoffs, and they're probably going to be in contention to win the Stanley Cup like we saw for the first, 3-4 years of their existence. They've only been, I think next year's like their fifth year in the league, fifth or sixth year.
Is it already
franchise?
It's already 5 years. That's crazy.
Unbelievable, man.
The last couple years are all blur with all this COVID shit. So yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. No, but you said it with Calgary, like you don't know what's going to happen with their core. And another interesting thing I saw floating around Twitter and people talking about is how both the Lightning and the Avalanche did not move away from their core. Like they stuck with the same guys. They paid their guys. You think about Tampa Bay, right? Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Victor Hedman, Vasilevsky, Braden Point. You go look at Colorado, McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog. I mean, Makar, it's only like his third year in the league. Really, the only change they made, Lepore, is when they shipped off Tyson Barrie, who was an original member of that Colorado core. And they obviously shipped him to Toronto in the Kadri and Kerfoot deal. But
if we're going a little further back,
cores, man.
If we're going a little further back, the Duchesne deal.
Yep. Matt Duchesne as well, who was an OG member of that core. But this Colorado team, it was only like 4 or 5 years ago. They finished dead last in the NHL.
Yeah, like 40-something points. They were like the laughing stock of the league.
They were terrible. They had one of the worst seasons in the last 25 years in the NHL. And now they're Stanley Cup champions, and they stuck with a lot of the same guys. They didn't, make any drastic moves and trade Mikko Rantanen. And even, people forget Nathan McKinnon. It's not like he was a superstar from the second he entered the league. Like he had a rough patch there for a while, and that's why he was only signed to a contract for a little over $6 million. Now he's going to get the bag on his next deal. But, it's interesting to look at those teams, and then you compare them to the Leafs, obviously, and you can make a strong argument that the Leafs really shouldn't do anything at all with the core that they have in place.
Yeah, I know. And everyone knows how we feel about that. But in the comments below, tell us how we're wrong and why the Leafs should trade everyone.
Yeah. I still see the comments every day, man, that they got to trade someone from the core or else this team is doomed.
Just because, right?
Just for the hell of it.
Yeah, we got to shake things up.